My memory was not always my best friend. I would forget names just moments after hearing them. This felt embarrassing. I would make a list for the shops, then I would leave the list at home. It was very frustrating. I knew my brain could do much more. I believe everyone has an amazing brain. We just need to learn how to use it. I wanted to find a way to make my memory sharper, a way to remember important things easily. This was the start of my memory mission. I often felt limited by what I could recall. Imagine learning something new, you feel excited, then the next day it's gone, like writing in sand and the waves wash it away. This happened to me with facts, with ideas, even with good memories I wanted to keep. I wanted to build a stronger foundation in my mind, a place where important information could stay, not just for tests or work, but for life, for connecting with people, for personal growth. I felt a strong desire for this change. This feeling grew stronger each day. I thought about all the benefits. Remembering people's names makes them feel special. Remembering what I learn helps me grow smarter. Remembering my tasks helps me be more productive. No more missed appointments, no more forgetting promises. A better memory could make my daily life smoother. It could reduce stress. It could open new doors for me. I was ready to put in the effort. I was excited to see what I could achieve. The journey was about to begin. So I decided to take action. I did not want to just wish for a better memory. I wanted to build one. I started looking for techniques, for methods that people use to boost their recall. There are many out there. Some seemed complex, some seemed too simple to work. But I was hopeful. I knew that with the right tool, and with practice, I could make a real difference. My goal was clear. Find a memory hack, try it for one full week, and see what happens. I was ready for the challenge. After some searching, I found a method. It is very old and very famous. It is called the method of Loci. Some people call it the memory palace. I like the sound of that. A palace in my mind. This technique was used by ancient Greeks and Romans. They used it to remember long speeches. They used it to remember many facts. If it worked for them, maybe it could work for me. It sounded powerful. It also sounded like an adventure for my mind. I was curious to learn how it worked. The method of Loci is quite clever. It uses your spatial memory. This is your memory for places. You choose a place you know very well. It could be your home. It could be your walk to work. You picture this place in your mind. Then, you take the things you want to remember. You mentally place these items in specific spots along your route, or in different rooms of your mental house. To recall the items, you just walk through your palace. You see each item in its spot. This makes it easier to remember. I chose this method for a few reasons. First, it has a long history of success. That gave me confidence. Second, it seemed very visual. I am a visual learner, so creating mental images felt natural to me. Third, it did not require any special tools, just my imagination, and a willingness to practice. I felt this was something I could stick with for a week. I was eager to create my first memory palace. I wondered what it would feel like. I hoped it would be effective for my everyday memory needs. My expectation before starting was a mix of excitement and a little doubt. Could I really build a palace in my mind? Would it be strong enough to hold my memories? I hoped it would help me remember grocery lists, or key points from articles I read, or even a short sequence of numbers. I was not expecting to become a memory champion overnight, but I did hope for a noticeable improvement. I wanted to feel more in control of what I remember. I was ready to begin my 7-day experiment. Day 1 was interesting. I chose my apartment as my first memory palace. I walked through it in my mind. The front door, the hallway, the living room, the kitchen, then the bedroom. I made a short shopping list: milk, eggs, bread, apples, and coffee. I put a giant bottle of milk blocking my front door. I imagined eggs splattered on my hallway wall. A loaf of bread was sitting on my TV, big red apples were bouncing on my kitchen counter, and a huge bag of coffee beans was on my bed. It felt silly, but when I walked back through, I remembered all 5 items. Days 2 and 3 I practiced more. I used the same palace, my apartment. I wanted to make it very familiar. I tried to remember 7 random words each day. Words like blue, tree, happy, book, river, music, future. It was a bit tricky at first. Making the images vivid was key. A blue river flowing through my living room. A giant tree growing out of my kitchen sink. A happy song playing from my bookshelf. I noticed it was getting a little easier. The silly images really helped them stick. I was surprised by how well it started to work for these small lists. By day 4 and 5, I felt more confident. My mental walk through my apartment was faster. The locations were clear. I decided to try a slightly harder challenge. I tried to remember the main points of a short news article. There were 4 key facts. I placed each fact in a different room. The first fact was a big newspaper headline on my sofa. The second was a graph drawn on my kitchen table. It took more effort to create clear images for ideas, but it worked. This was a breakthrough. I felt my memory muscle getting a little stronger. On day 6 and 7 I pushed myself a bit more. I tried to remember a list of 10 historical dates for a mini quiz I gave myself. This was harder. Numbers can be tricky to visualize. I tried to make images for the numbers, like a swan for the number 2, or a sailboat for the number 4. I placed these images linked to the events in my palace. It took a lot of focus. I did not get all 10 right on the first try, but I got more than I would have without the method. By day 7, the process felt much more natural than on day 1. My mental palace felt like a real tool. So did the method of Loci work? Yes, it did. I saw a real improvement in just 1 week, especially for lists, like my shopping list, or a list of tasks. I was able to remember more items, and I remembered them more accurately. It was not magic. It took effort. I had to actively create the images. I had to practice my mental walk. But the results were there. I was genuinely surprised by how effective it could be, especially when the images were funny or strange. Those were the easiest to recall. Was this hack useful for everyday life? Definitely. For short-term memory tasks, it is great. Remembering a phone number someone tells you, recalling directions, or those key points from a meeting or an article. I found it helped me be more present, because I was actively trying to encode the information. The biggest challenge was making it a habit, and sometimes creating good images quickly took time. For very complex information it might need more practice, or maybe combining it with other techniques. But for daily things, it's a winner. One surprising thing was how much fun it could be. Making silly images in my mind made me smile. It turned remembering from a chore into a creative game. The difficulty was sometimes being consistent. If I was tired, it was harder to focus and build the palace. Also, for abstract ideas, it took more creativity to make a concrete image. I think with more practice this would get easier. The key is to keep using it. Like any skill, the more you use it, the better you get. Your brain learns fast. Would I recommend the method of Loci? Absolutely. I would recommend it to anyone who wants to improve their recall for lists, sequences, or key information. Students can use it for studying. Professionals can use it for presentations. Anyone can use it for daily tasks. It is simple to learn the basics. It does not cost anything. It just needs your imagination and a little bit of your time. I plan to keep using my memory palace. I might even build more palaces for different kinds of information. It's a powerful tool and now it's in my mental toolkit.